Hello, how are you today? Do you want to dive into a book that might just surprise you? Whether it becomes your next favorite or one you might skip? Let's find out what readers are saying about it.
Vicky, who has 3,723 likes, says, I want you so bad. And I swear, once you have sex with me, you'll never hear from me again. I promise. I am convinced anyone who gives this 5 stars is not sane. It contains the typical I don't do marriage love interest. But somehow, he magically wants a committed relationship and kids with our lucky lady after a few interactions. We love being the only exception. It ends with this contains a lot of dark elements such as abuse, toxic relationships, and attempted rape with no trigger warnings. I guess Colleen Hoover thinks that trigger warnings are spoilers. I understand this novel is based on the author's experience, but that doesn't mean it's good. Nor am I obligated to like it. There's absolutely no justification for abuse. And why Lily continues to stay is beyond my comprehension. Her first meeting with the love interest, Ryle, has him being aggressive and kicking chairs on the rooftop at night. While any normal woman would instinctively feel fear and leave, she's too distracted by how hot he is and how his biceps are rippling through his extra small shirt. Like, girl, get a grip. Throwing away your morals just because someone is hot has got to be the stupidest thing ever. The author added numerous poor book decisions. I'll list some of them here. 1. The main character's full name is Lily Blossom Bloom, and she runs a florist shop. Do I even need to say more? She's the reigning champion of cringy book character names. Point 2. Lily is obsessed with Ellen DeGeneres to the point where Ellen becomes the 4th main character of the story. She writes to Ellen in her diary, which is a way for Hoover to dump Lily's background story on his. Point 3. Ryle knocked on 29 apartment doors simply to find Lily and proceeded to beg on his knees for her to fuck him. That is so embarrassing. Especially since he's only met Lily 2 times at this point. Point 4. Lily's bedroom light turned on at the exact perfect moment, just as Atlas was about to commit suicide. Wow, what a coincidence. He thought she was an angel beaming in the light. He said, and I quote, I felt something. Apparently, that was enough to stop him from wanting to end his life. That's not exactly how mental health works. But okay, portraying it this way risks downplaying the seriousness of mental health struggles and the ongoing effort required to heal from them. Point 5. Ryle secretly took a picture of Lily the first time they met, then immediately framed it and hung it on his wall. Was this supposed to be attractive? 6. The classic I'll bring my gay best friend as my date to make Ryle jealous, only for the gay best friend to never to show up again. I smell a plot device. It's funny how, in a book full of rich, white characters, the one minor character is the stereotypical gay best friend who only exists for few pages. Point 7. The quote, there's no such thing as bad people, just people who do bad things. Saying this can be damaging because it suggests that harmful actions, like abuse, are just mistakes rather than deliberate choices. It can make it harder to hold people accountable for their actions. It might excuse or downplay serious harm they've caused, ultimately protecting those who need to take responsibility for their behavior. Point 8. Atlas slept with Lily when he was 18. Interestingly, they slept together on the exact day Lily turned 16, which is typically considered the age of consent. I don't understand why she couldn't make them the same age. Point 9. Lily's daughter is named Emerson, and I don't understand why she would choose to name her daughter to honor Ryle, her abuser. It's also confusing that Ryle even has custody of their child after everything that happened. 10. Lily is overly obsessed with Finding Nemo, constantly referencing the Just Keep Swimming quote, even naming her daughter's middle name after it. Repeating it so often comes off more as a gimmick than a meaningful message. Point 11. Hoover has the most unhinged sentences. When he was wiping that cow shit on me, it was quite possibly the most turned on I have ever been. This is even worse than when the main character in Verity got turned on because the love interest touched her driver's license. 12. Worldwide, millions are struggling to find a job. Yet Lily hires a wealthy woman to work for free instead of hiring a broke college student. Alyssa even says she doesn't need the money and wants to do it because she's bored. Ugh. Classic rich people problems. What a coincidence she's also Ryle's sister. And, of course, Lily's only friend. Why is Lily's only friend her abuser's sister? When Alyssa finds out that her brother is abusing Lily, her first reaction isn't to tell Lily to leave him or try to comfort her, but to tell her some sob story about his childhood trauma. It feels like an attempt to excuse his behavior rather than address the real issue. 13. Ryle didn't want Lily to leave until she asked how he would react if their daughter told him her husband had hit her and pushed her down the stairs. That's when he finally starts to understand the seriousness of his actions. It's so frustrating how some men only learn to respect women when they imagine their daughters, mothers, or sisters in the same situation. Despite the many cringe scenes in the book, I understand the valuable and worthwhile message the book tries to convey. It sheds light on how difficult it is to leave someone you love in toxic situations, which are often complex and hard to navigate. It's so challenging that you make excuses or convince yourself that the truth isn't what it is. That being said, I still don't understand why Lily stayed with Ryle after the first incident of assault. I couldn't see the emotional foundation of their relationship. It mainly seemed to be based on physical attraction, which was evident from their first meeting. Lily claimed she stayed because she loved him too much, but that never felt convincing, especially since the story only told me she loved him without showing me why. What's even more puzzling is how Hoover introduces so many heavy topics: homelessness, guilt, infertility, abuse, suicidal thoughts, sexism, gaslighting, gun violence, death of a parent, and self-harm without diving deeply into them. It almost feels like they were thrown in to make the book more emotional without exploring the complexities of each issue. Some readers use the excuse mental health is different for everyone to justify Hoover's confusing writing choices. But that doesn't excuse the lack of depth in these themes. The portrayal of mental health could have been much more nuanced and thoughtful rather than simply using these issues to make the plot feel more dramatic. Furthermore, I was not too fond of the plot and didn't connect with a single character. I don't understand why Ryle didn't get help, especially when he could do things similar to their daughter or another partner. That man better stay the hell away from me, or I will seal him up in a trash bag and hit him to the moon with a baseball bat. In conclusion, I will never touch another Colleen Hoover book. Kyle Lowry, who has 644 likes, says, "Initially I rated it 3 stars and I just left the screener for the movie. The movie made me appreciate the book so much more. The parallels between my life and Lily's character truly hit home. Absolutely check the trigger warnings on the book and movie. My advice is to read and then watch." Niloufar Ozmekik, who has 796 likes, says, "My additional thoughts on the book adaptation and my movie review. I love Colleen Hoover so much. I'd probably even read her shopping list if she published it. Their perfect blend of angst and tear-jerking emotion always gets me. I also really enjoyed the movie. The performances were strong. The emotional depth was moving. And the powerful, liberating message against domestic violence truly resonated with me. However, I can't stand the ongoing feud between the lead actors. It needs to end. They need to make peace. Especially with the It Starts With a sequel coming up. It's time to put the drama behind them and focus on what's next for the fans." Here are my thoughts on the movie. https Medium.com/@niluferyazmekik/I. my. Arg. This is me confronting my ripped-apart heart pieces after reading this book. Actually, I read the book a long time ago. I was too scared to write a review because writing meant opening up about my feelings. This book hurt me a lot, and I couldn't find the right words to describe the hurt it gave me, honestly. This is my longest Coelho reading because I put it down several times. I got pissed. I screamed. I clenched my fists so hard. I cursed the entire family tree of Ryle Kincaid. I haven't wanted to hire contract torturers to kidnap a character and give them the punishment they deserved for so long. The things he did to Lilith, physical and emotional abuse, were impossible for me to absorb. I felt breathless and gave up several times. This book sledgehammered my heart and crushed my soul. I returned to my reading because the beautiful love story between Atlas and Lily was like seeing sunshine through dark clouds, giving me the only hope I could hold on to. I honestly thought of only reading the flashbacks to warm my heart. What if they had reconnected that night when they accidentally met again at the restaurant? What if Lily had gone back to him instead of choosing a path with Ryle? That scenario made me so happy. But it would never be the same without the tremendous angst Coelho threw at us because she is an expert at bringing out the dirtiest, ugliest cries of regular human beings. And without pain and suffering. So much sadness. We don't feel like we're reading an actual Coelho story. Do we? Never. This book is being developed into a screenplay. It's so compelling to read this heart-stabbing, soul-sledgehammering story without consuming tons of paper products to dry the tears we may shed. I cannot imagine how the movie will affect me. But sometimes words hurt more than actions. And I am sure no screenwriter has the ability to reflect all the emotions Coelho made us feel during our reads. So my advice: stock up on all the paper products from grocery stores. Lock yourself in a soundproof room so as not to scare your neighbors with your screams and howling sounds. And give your entire concentration to this lyrical, insanely heartfelt story. It's one of the most compelling, sad, and sensational Coelho books. I could hardly digest the emotional turmoil it gave me. But it's worth the pain. Especially that meaningful, sentimental, poetic ending melted my heart. I made some adjustments for clarity and flow, while preserving the original emotions and tone. Yun, who has 1,228 likes, says, "We all have a limit. What we're willing to put up with before we break. When was the last time a book just completely slayed me, cutting me so deep and evoking such strong emotions? It feels like my heart has been filled, then broken, filled, then broken. In the end, I am stunned by what I read. It ends with as starts out innocently enough. We follow the courtship of Lily and Ryle. He is handsome, successful, and so thoroughly smitten with Lily he can barely think. He makes advances while claiming he doesn't do relationships. She rebuffs him while secretly pining for him. Really, it's all fun and a bit frivolous. Your standard romance, but then we arrive at the crux of this story, which I'll try my best to be vague here so as to minimize the spoilage. Though at this point, with all the hubbub surrounding the movie, I'd be surprised if there is anyone out there who doesn't yet know what this is about. Nonetheless, it's best to read it from Colleen Hoover's own words. And what an astounding set of words they are. Make no mistake. This isn't a romance even though it starts out as one. Instead, it's a considerably more honest look at relationships, their ups and downs. And what really happens when the rosy tint wears off and it turns out one person has bigger issues than the relationship can contain. As a result, it asks us readers the very uncomfortable question of just how much we are willing to put up with. For love, I will say. The main topic in here is something that a lot of books try to tackle, but very few do right. Often books will go heavy-handed in making one character out to be the villain, as if afraid that a more subtle approach will somehow be misconstrued as condonement. But this does a disservice to the entire situation, making it difficult for us to understand the other character's perspective as well as their reasons for being in the relationship in the first place. What makes Hoover's portrayal so masterful is her nuanced approach. She brings a humanity to both sides that is sobering and heartbreaking. And it makes the whole thing ring true. It's brutal and compelling. And it's hard to look away. I think for those of us fortunate enough to never have been in a situation like this, it's easy to take the ideal road and turn our noses up at anything less than the puritanical view. But real life isn't like that at all. It isn't black and white. It's filled to the brim with all sorts of gray, day in and day out. And Hoover shades in the gray with a skillfulness that is so raw and visceral. It often made me forget where my lines are. Many people think that Hoover is romanticizing what is going on in here, but that isn't it at all. In making Ryle the complex person that he is with good qualities. And in making Ryle and Lily's relationship happy most of the time, Hoover actually manages to explain the most confounding paradox of abusive relationships, that they are good or even great most of the time, and that the victim is neither too dumb to realize they're being mistreated nor are they too lazy to affect change, but rather, the victim needs to be exceptionally strong and well supported in order to leave behind so many good moments in order to cut out a few bad ones. I read this book years ago when it first came out, and I remember thinking highly of it, though not much else. So when I read it again this time, I admit I was shaken by how hard it hit me. I think it's because I am older now and have more experience with love and relationships, so I am able to appreciate this story even more. My suggestions: if you're going to read this book, have a box of tissues ready and don't skip the author's note at the end. I sobbed my way to the finishing line, then read the author's note and sobbed some more. This is a riveting and worthwhile read, though at times difficult, and it showcases Colleen Hoover at her best, taking her contemporary new adult genre and elevating it to soaring heights. See also my thoughts on it. Starts with us Verity reminders of him regretting you ugly love Layla connect with me Instagram. KL Grayson, who has 2,379 likes, says, Dear Colleen, I find it fitting that I write this review as a letter to you the way Lily would write to Ellen. Don't ask me why. I really don't know. What I do know is that I haven't been on Goodreads in nearly 6 months and it's entirely your fault that I am here now. So, if I stumble upon a poor review on one of my books and end up in the fetal position on my kitchen floor surrounded by ding-dong wrappers, well, I am blaming it on you. I've even given my husband instructions to bill you for the psychiatry bill if that happens. On Friday I had a hysterectomy. It wasn't the worst day of my life, but it certainly wasn't the best one chapter of my life. Quite possibly the best chapter, ended. The surgery itself took 20 minutes. 20 minutes. Can you believe that? 20 minutes to take out the uterus that carried my 3 beautiful babies for a total of 28 months. 20 minutes to change my life. Don't feel bad for me. That's not what I want. The offending organ had to come out. I knew this, but it didn't make it any easier. It didn't make the finality of the situation any easier. In all honesty, for a couple of minutes I didn't just feel like a chapter was ending. More like an entire flipping book. Maybe my life isn't made up of chapters. Maybe it's part of a duet. Or a trilogy? Either way, part of my story was over. Over a matter of several hours. I slowly woke up from surgery and at one point I remember sitting there and just staring at the wallpaper in my hospital room. My uterus was gone. Mauve diamonds. The wallpaper was covered in mauve diamonds. That's the most hideous color, don't you think? Mauve. Not quite pink. Not quite maroon. I counted 753 diamonds before I allowed the first tear to fall. But I wasn't just crying for losing a part of my body. And I wasn't crying for losing the ability to carry more children. I was crying because some women don't even get to experience what I've gotten to experience. Some women never get to have babies. They never get to feel them grow in their bellies. They never get to see the slimy little monsters as they tumble their way into this world, and I did. I got to do all of that 3 times, so why was I so upset? What the hell was my problem? I should be grateful, right? Happy? My husband slept soundly in the chair, snoring softly, but at some point my cries must have woken him up. He stirred and I did the only thing I could do. I grabbed your book. You see, it was sitting on my bedside table. I buried my nose between the pages, and when my better half asked me if I was okay, I simply peeked over the top of the book and whispered, "Colleen." She did it again. I didn't need to say much more. He knows my obsession with your words, and I found myself grateful. Grateful that he knew your books make me cry, and grateful that you inadvertently allowed me to grieve. And that's what I did. I read your book and I grieved. I cried when Lily cried. I cried when Ryle cried. And even when no one was crying, I still cried simply because I needed to and I could, and no one thought twice about it because I was reading, and that's what I do when I read. It was my outlet, my excuse for the tears that wouldn't go away. The tears that kept falling despite my desperate protest. I cried for all of the Lilies in the world. And the Ryles too. I cried for the Atlas. And I cried for the Kirbys. That's my name. No, I am not named after a vacuum. Or a cream puff. But you see, I didn't want to cry. I didn't want to be upset. I have 3 beautiful children whom I love with my entire heart. My body did its job extremely well, and that is something to be proud of. But why wasn't I proud? Naked truth? I am selfish. I wanted one more baby even though my husband didn't. I wanted one more baby when there are women out there that can't have any at all. So why am I telling you this? My story is nothing like Lily's. Not even close. But maybe it is. She wanted something she shouldn't want. I wanted something I couldn't have. She had a decision to make. One that would change her life. So did I. She made a decision that was right for her and for her life at that particular time. Ditto. But the real reason I am telling you this is because for 2 days I was drowning, and it ends with this was my lifeline. It's what I grabbed when I needed to stop thinking. It's what I grabbed when I needed to cry. And when I finally finished the book and put it down, it wasn't mauve diamonds that I saw. It was my smiling children, my 3 beautiful smiling children. And my niece Lily, Kirby.